Hi everyone, it's Lynnea for LDRS Creative, and today we're playing with the new window dressing dies from LDRS Creative sold at hsn.com. I'm going to be using these dies to create a simple card with a fun little interactive element on the front. This is something that anyone can do, and it adds a little bit of interest to a simple card. Let's go ahead and get started. First off, it's always important to notice that on the back of the LDRS Creative packaging, you will often find layering guides and even project examples. So be sure to keep your packaging so that you can look at how these dies are meant to be used. I went ahead and used the window dressing dies and cut out all of the elements that I'll need for my card. So I started by cutting out the bike from some light pink cardstock, and then I cut all of the bike accompanying pieces from white cardstock. All of these tiny little dies are on one die so that you can easily cut them all out at once. I'm using my liquid adhesive and a little sticky tool to help me place these so that my fingers don't get in the way, but you could also use tweezers or even just place them without a tool. There are little pieces for the handles, the bike seat, the center of the wheels, and then the pedal as well. So I'm just layering these on with little dots of glue, and then I'll set this aside to dry. Don't forget to add the tires. I cut these from medium gray cardstock, but they would look great in black or any other color. There's also an optional basket that you can put onto your bike. I thought it was just so cute, so I went ahead and added that onto the front of my bike. Now I'm going to go ahead and get started with my card background. It's going to be very simple. I'm using an LDRS Creative stencil that has been in my stash for a couple of years now, and it's definitely a staple stencil for me. It's the Rainy Day stencil, and I'm going to use this to add some layers of grass at the bottom of my card and some clouds up at the top. So I'm taking a green hybrid ink and I'm blending off the bottom of the stencil to create a grassy border down at the bottom. I'm starting with a lighter layer of ink, and then I'm going to pick up my stencil and I'll move it down to create a second layer of grass. So that just gives me a little bit more dimension and variety on the bottom of my card. Once I have my grass ink blended, I'm going to switch to the top of the stencil and move to the top of my card panel and use a light blue ink to ink blend some clouds. Just like I did with the grass at the bottom, I'm going to blend a layer of these clouds and then move my stencil down, and I'll do this 3 or 4 times so that I have that whole background of my panel full of clouds. It's very subtle, but it's really cute. Alright, now we're going to move on to the interactive element of my card. My idea was to have the fence in front of the bike and be able to open the fence so that you can see the bike peeking out in the background. So I cut just a scrap piece of white cardstock. I didn't measure, I just cut it so that it was tall enough to hide behind part of this little picket fence here. I scored about 1/4 of an inch and just left the other side long. I'm going to be hiding that and tucking that inside of my card, so that part doesn't really matter. I also cut a second piece of the fence so that I could hide that piece of white cardstock and just kind of make this card look a bit more finished. So once I adhered that small scored and folded edge onto the fence, I added that second die cut fence piece to hide that scored piece. That's kind of the hinge mechanism. Then I'm going to adhere that large extra piece from the hinge onto the back of my card panel. And then when I adhere my panel onto my card base, you won't even be able to see that hinge mechanism. The whole thing is going to be hidden in between the card panel and the card front. But you're going to be able to open that little picket fence, and that's just so cute. Alright, so here I'm finishing up my card. I added a sentiment up at the top from the Home 4x6 stamps from LDRS Creative. And now I'm using some more dies from the window dressing dies from HSN. There are some gorgeous floral dies in here, and there's one die that cuts 5 different size flowers. You can use these on their own or stack them all up. So this little purple flower that I have here, I used all 5 of those little flowers, staggered them a little bit and stacked them up, and I also curved up the edges so there's some extra dimension to my flower here. You can see some other flowers sitting off to the right of my project where I only used 2 layers of the flowers. And I made sure to kind of stagger the different layers, so I used the largest with one of the smaller ones to add some extra dimension and colors. I also die cut some of the little birds from the window dressing dies, and this card is finished. It's super simple, but I love that hinge mechanism that adds just a little touch of interactive magic to the card. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!